today I'm going to be showing you how I make my dairy-free, gluten-free green bean casserole dish. I got some requests for this one and I have never filmed a cooking video on here before, so we'll see how this goes. I am totally aware of the echo that happens in here, so my apologies until I can get this figured out. I don't know, this is super last minute, but also I really don't know what I'm doing. I've never done a cooking video before. I'm gonna get a 2-camera shot action and try to do it that way. I really don't know how this is gonna turn out, so hopefully you like it. It may or may not be a hot mess, but whatever. I wanted to show you guys my recipe for this dish. When I came up with this dish, there wasn't really much out there. First of all, it was either dairy-free or it was gluten-free. So my overall goal was to create a green bean casserole that was dairy-free and gluten-free that tasted just like my mom's green bean casserole. And a lot of the dishes I was seeing, like I said, were either dairy-free or gluten-free or just like super duper healthy, which is great. I think that's amazing. But on Thanksgiving, I'm not trying to be healthy, y'all. Whoa, that's not stable. So not to babble on forever, but you know me. Here's the backstory. So the way I learned to cook was by watching my mom. And my mom doesn't measure things in life. I don't know if your parents are like this or your grandparents are like this or whoever does the cooking in your house is like this or growing up. But my mom would just be like, I'd be like, how am I supposed to learn to cook when I don't know how much you're putting in things? And she's like, oh, I'm just gonna sprinkle some in here and throw this in there and then taste it and then throw some more. Oh, I'm just gonna dump this here. Literally, there's no like 1 cup of this, 2 cups of this. So in life, that is how I cook. So I've never measured out this recipe. I have completely eyeballed it every time I've made it. So it's gonna be interesting today to teach you how to make this without just being like, then you just throw this can in here and then, so we're gonna do the best we can. So anyways, let's get started on this green bean casserole. All right, so to start things off, I'm gonna put on this apron that I've never worn in my whole life. I don't even know if I'm in focus. This is probably gonna be a hot mess, but we're gonna try our very best. It's the recipe that counts, right? Okay, so I'm gonna put on this, which I really don't know what kind of situation IKEA puts out because I don't even know what this is. I usually just do this in my sweatpants, not gonna lie. So welcome to my spooky kitchen. Maybe got some teeth. So next thing I'm gonna do after I get my apron on, I'm going to turn on my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, by the way, because I live in America. I'm gonna try not to catch on fire in the process. All right, so now that our oven is preheating, I wanna go over the ingredients you're gonna need for this recipe. Also worth mentioning, this recipe is not the cheapest recipe. It is, because I use a lot of dairy-free alternatives, they are a little bit on the pricey side. They've gotten better actually as the years have gone by, but they still are not cheap. But since this is a special occasion dish, I do splurge every year on this dish. But I just want to give you that heads up before you're like, girl, you expect me to spend $8 on a jar of Vegenaise? Like, yeah, it is. It is not cheap. Now that I have that little disclaimer, let's get into the ingredients. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my green beans and I'm gonna put them in a bowl, a really big old bowl. This guy here, this huge thing. I got these stackable bowls at Crate & Barrel, by the way. Okay, then what I'm gonna do, I'm also gonna take a bowl that I'm gonna drain my green beans in because I'm not gonna do it over the sink just for the sake of filming. Anyways, I'm gonna open my green beans. I'm only gonna open, I don't know. I'm gonna open 3 cans. I think 3 is gonna be good. And I don't use an electric can opener, is that weird? And you can, of course, pat these down. If you wanna lay these out on a paper towel and really get them nice and dry, go for it. Sometimes I put them in the bowl and I'll pat them down a little bit to dry them out. I haven't decided if I'm doing that yet. clearly we have our life organized. I actually wasn't planning on doing this. I was going to do this next year actually. I wanted to incorporate more cooking stuff, but I wanted to plan it a little bit better, but sometimes things are just unplanned and you just gotta go with it, and that's where I'm at today. Okay, so I'm gonna dump these 3 cans in this big old red bowl. So next up, I'm gonna take my cutting board. Let me set this aside. Let's put this over here for now, because I just know I'm gonna knock it over. Okay, I'm gonna take my sliced mushrooms in a can, and I'm going to, this is like one of those tabs, so it's easy to open. And I'm going to drain it, and then I'm going to chop them up. You do not have to chop these up, it's totally optional. I have left them sliced, and it's delicious, especially if you like mushrooms and you like bigger chunks of mushrooms. But I'm gonna, for the sake of having it be more like a traditional green bean casserole with like the cream of mushroom that's really diced, I'm going to chop up these mushrooms. And then I'm gonna spread them out on this cutting board. All right, so I'm gonna chop up these mushrooms into little tiny pieces, which sounds a little morbid for some reason, or maybe that's just where my head is at. But I'm gonna just dice them, chop them up. I don't know, using this chef knife, whatever it is. I'm not a chef, clearly. I'm just an average Halloween lover who's trying to do Thanksgiving. All right, let's put this in the green bean mixture. This bowl right here. And add the mushrooms. From there, we could probably give it a little bit of, whoa, all these mushrooms just went flying. I probably need a better, like a spatula. Boom, spatula. All right, so I'm gonna give this a little stir gently with the spatula, with the rubber spatula. We don't wanna be too rough with it because we don't want to dismember the green beans. I don't know, for some reason I feel like this is like a cooking show of a serial killer or something. I don't know why I'm thinking that, but all right. And it does look a little bit wet right now, so you could take some paper towels and dab it, but I'm gonna see where we're at because we have those instant mashed potatoes, so we can always use that to thicken it up a little bit. So I'm not really concerned about it. So if it does look a little bit wet to you, no worries. We're gonna hopefully get through that part. All right, so next I'm gonna take my wet ingredients, so my Vegenaise and my sour cream, and I'm gonna put them in this bowl right here that I dried out, or dried off, because that's where I had drained the canned goods. Also, side note, if you hear my neighbor dogs and it sounds like they're literally in my backyard, it's because they probably are. Okay, so I'm gonna take my Vegenaise, I'm gonna scoop it into a cup thing, because okay, let me just be honest with you. Normally I just take the jar and I just throw it in there and see if it works. But for the sake of the recipe, I'm gonna measure this out and hope for the best. So I'm gonna start with, I'm gonna go with 2 cups of Vegenaise in this. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm gonna put all my wet ingredients in a bowl with all the spices and stuff like that. That way I can get them nice and mixed in. When I put it all in with the green beans, it requires some stirring. So I don't want to, like I said, dismember. I don't know if there's a better word for that, but I really don't want to damage the green beans. So I'm gonna mix my wet ingredients separately in a bowl. So that's what we're doing. So now that we have 2 cups of Vegenaise in here, I'm gonna add a half of a cup of the Tofutti sour cream in this as well. And sometimes I use the whole thing of this. I think I have in the past. Not sure. We're just gonna do a half cup. We're gonna start there. All right, so for dry ingredients, I'm gonna go for 2 teaspoons of garlic powder and 1 teaspoon of onion powder. I find that onion powder is way stronger than garlic powder. So I use a little bit less of the onion powder, but it also depends on your taste. You can add a little bit more if you want a stronger flavor of garlic or onion. It's totally up to you. Also, I put in a dash, actually maybe a little more than a dash of black pepper. I love black pepper. So I would say black pepper to taste. So whatever your taste preference is. So I added all the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients, so the Vegenaise and the sour cream. And then with a spatula, I'm just mixing it up. Just stirring it to get it all nice and blended in there. So next I'm gonna take our creamy concoction and I'm going to add it to our green bean and mushroom concoction. And then I'm going to fold it kind of fold it in, I guess is what you would call it. Is that the chef term? I'm gonna fold it in so we don't, once again, dismember, break apart, mush the green beans. That's what I'm gonna do. Okay, and as I'm stirring it, I'm seeing that it does have a watery, like some of that water from the mushrooms and some of the water from the green beans. So I'm gonna add about 1/4 of a cup of Bob's Red Mill's instant mashed potatoes. And you can already start to see it thicken as it absorbs the water. Then as it heats up in the oven, it will be more of a casserole. So it won't be runny, it won't be soupy, it will be a thick, kind of ooey gooey kind of style casserole. All right, so what I used to do is I used to put the Daiya, whatever, cheese, the mozzarella cheese in the mixture and then bake it. But for whatever reason, over the years, I've had good luck some years and then other years it gets oily. And I think it's because sometimes when it's heated for long periods of time, this cheese does tend to get a little bit oily. So I started adding it at the end. So about 10 minutes or so before, like when I add the crispy onions, I will add the cheese. So I do a layer of cheese on top and then a layer of crispy onions. All right, so just a heads up, I was gonna use the 9x13 casserole dish because that's what I normally use when I have a big group over. But I normally, if I have a big group coming over, I will double this recipe. So just an FYI, if you are hosting, you're gonna have a lot of people, definitely double the recipe at least, maybe triple it if you want to. This amount is gonna be just perfect for me and my husband. It will last us a couple days, maybe. We love green bean casserole, but you will definitely want to double or triple the recipe if you're having a large group. The dish I'm gonna be using, I think this is probably 2 quarts dish, casserole dish. This is from Crate and Barrel. It came in like a little stack of dishes, or stack of casserole dishes. So I'm gonna take this concoction here and I'm gonna put it in this dish. I'm not going to grease the dish just because the Vegenaise is an oil blend. So it has canola oil, it has a bunch of different oils in it. So it does not need to be greased, I haven't found. So I'm just gonna add all of this goodness into this little casserole dish. So after I'm done with this, it's looking kind of thick, to be honest with you. I'm gonna watch it and go from there. Hopefully this isn't a total disaster. Oh my God, it's so good. Oh my God, it's so good. It's looking a little thick because I put in, I don't know if 1/4 of a cup of those potato flakes was too much, but whatever. All right. Oh my God, my mouth is literally watering now. Okay. I'm gonna put this in the oven for about 25 minutes until it gets bubbly. And then I'm gonna add the cheese. I'm literally just going to, what just happened here? I don't know what happened. On top of the cheese, I'm gonna add the crispy onions on top of that. So hopefully that works. All right, so I just pulled it out of the oven. I'm gonna put some Daiya or Daiya, whatever cheese, over the top, just sprinkle it over. And then also sprinkle some of these gluten-free French fried onions over the top. Put it back in the oven for about 5 to 10 minutes, just depends on your oven, but just whenever the cheese is melted, you should be good to go. And then we are done. Just did a couple of close-up shots so you guys can see what it looks like when it's finished, but everything ended up perfect. It didn't end up too thick at all, in my opinion. Anyways, I made myself a big old plate and I'm gonna take a bite right here because we'll see what the verdict is on this green bean casserole. If it tastes like my grandma's. Oh shit. This is literally my life. It is so good. The only thing I would do differently maybe is when I take it out of the oven after 25 minutes, I might live on the edge a little bit and mix some of the cheese into the actual dish and put it on top, then pop it in for another it was about 10 minutes, I would say, especially if it's inside of it. Put it in for another 10 minutes and see how it went, because it would be really good if the cheese was melted inside as well, but not necessary. It's still so freaking delicious. But oh my gosh, this is so good. Wait, one more bite. Just one more. Oh my God, I can't get any. I cannot wait for you guys to try this dish. It is so freaking delicious. And I wanted to thank you guys for requesting this video because now I actually have a recipe to follow every year. So I don't have to just guess every year and see how it turns out. Anyways, I'm gonna get back to eating this, but first I wanted to thank you guys so much for watching my very first cooking video. If you guys like these types of videos, give this video, how many times am I gonna say video? Give this video a thumbs up, say hey Ghoul Heyyyy down in the comments, or just be like, hey, I love cooking videos. And if you try it, please take pictures of it, tag me on Instagram, hashtag JadeTheLibra on Instagram, or leave a comment in the comments box telling me how you liked it, if it was a hit, if it was good, whatever, all the things. I would love to hear if you tried it and how you liked it. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. I'm just gonna eat this whole plate. Oh, this is good. Mmm.